Eat Sleep Boxing with Pete. Like to be joined as always by Paul Kelly for our weekly preview ahead of this weekend's action. There's not a huge amount of boxing this weekend, Paul, especially when you compare to the fact we've just had a double header on Saturday night and a busy February and lots going on. But yeah, this weekend, Boxer / Sky Sports are heading to Newcastle. We will be there reporting on it. We've got a good main event, a couple of good undercard fights. So we're going to mostly be talking about that. But yeah, thank you for joining me.
No problem, Eliot. Yeah, I'm looking forward to analysing another weekend's boxing. As you said there, it's it's maybe not what we've come to expect of these last couple of months. You know, since boxing came back in the UK, it's been everything. You feel like it's been on every night, don't you? So yeah, no, it's still good to have it on, but maybe also it's kind of a bit of a relief that it's just the one show.
Yeah, because it's in danger of there being a bit of an overload, I think. But we will go straight into it. Savannah Marshall returns to our screens against Fem Hamans, I think is how you pronounce her. She's from Belgium. I think Savannah Marshall was scheduled to fight her some time back on a Matchroom show, but the fight didn't happen. I think Hamans' record is 12-3. One of those losses is to Clarissa Shields, who Savannah Marshall could be facing on Saturday night. So I think my immediate opinion of this is that I don't think that they're going to put Marshall in with someone who she could possibly lose to when this big fight against Clarissa Shields is practically made, you like to think. However, I don't think she's not with a journeywoman that on Saturday night. But yeah, we'll see what happens. But what are your thoughts here, Paul?
Yeah, I have to agree with what you're saying there. I feel like it's almost, it's one of them where it's just like, okay, we'll give you this. It's an okay name, but you're not going to lose. One of those ones that in my opinion, there's no real threat there. And without doing the girl a disservice, I just don't see how any way that she can beat Savannah Marshall. So if you're Savannah Marshall, I think you just got to go in there and try and beat Hermans better than what Clarissa Shields did. And I could see that happening. I do think, obviously, Savannah Marshall is far more of a bigger puncher than Clarissa Shields, so it seems anyway, as the vast majority of Shields fights goes the distance. And I believe this fight against Hermans did go to the distance as well, didn't it?
Yeah.
So I think if you're Savannah Marshall, you're looking at that and thinking, right, okay, to build the Shields fight even more, I'm going to go in and stop my opponent and then get on the mic afterwards and just say, well, she beat her over the distance. I stopped her in 6 rounds, whatever it is. So I think that's the narrative that Savannah Marshall has to go for this weekend.
Yeah, I'm actually quite interested in this fight. One of the reasons is because if you said to me, give me 10 fights you want to see in 2022, for me, one of them would be Savannah Marshall, Clarissa Shields. I'm desperate to see that fight. And I feel like I don't want to call this fight a warm-up fight. I think that's a bit disrespectful because she's not in against kind of, as I said, a journeywoman here. But what's interesting to me is that, I think Savannah Marshall possibly needs some rounds because the last couple of fights have gone quite early. And 2, she wants to have a good performance going into the Shields fight. If she has a bad performance, that could knock her confidence and that could kind of make Shields maybe see any weaknesses that she has a little bit more. However, I personally think Savannah Marshall is Britain's best female boxer. And I think I rate her highly. I think she could beat Clarissa Shields later this year. And yeah, we'll see what happens on Saturday night. But I think regardless of how competitive you think this matchup is, it is a world title fight. It's a chance to see one of Britain's best in action. And there's been plenty of times we've seen kind of male boxers against lesser opponents. And we've still watched it. So I think that should be the same attitude here. But it's the main event and it is a world title fight. And yeah, it's a great talent in action. We will move on to the undercard fight that we're talking about. Florian Marku, Chris Jenkins has the potential to be a good fight. I think what I wanted to ask you about here, Paul, was how highly do you rate Florian Marku? Because there are some people who are saying he's not really beaten anybody of note. He's obviously had a draw in his career. He beat Ryland Charlton when Ryland Charlton was at a weight that wasn't kind of suitable for him. However, was possibly quite impressive in his last fight at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. How highly do you rate him? And I'm aware, obviously Florian Marku's I know he's Albanian, he's not British, therefore he's not going to fight for the British title. But what kind of level do you think he is at? Do you think he's above British level, above European level? What are your thoughts?
I don't think he's above European level, no. I'd say he probably would be, if he was British, he would be around British level. Funny you mentioned the Ryland Charlton fight there. Yeah, that was Charlton up at a weight that he wasn't, it was a weight above what he should have been fighting at. And he still put Marku on his arse. So I don't think Marku is as good as a lot of people are letting on. I think that this fight is a very, very competitive fight. And I know Dewey will be going for a Chris Jenkins first round knockout, but I could see Chris Jenkins winning this fight. No, I think, don't get me wrong, it's one of them fights where you look at it and you think, yeah, do you know what? I don't want to watch that. I'm going to tune in. I'm intrigued in the fight, but I do think that I have a feeling Chris Jenkins is going to beat Florian Marku, because I don't think Florian Marku is all that.
No, it's an interesting one. I think not everyone, a lot of people have opinions about Florian Marku. So I think a lot of people, perhaps if you're not that fussed about the main event, a lot of people will be tuning in for this fight. But it's definitely an interesting one. As you know, Jenkins was out recently, a couple of months ago, against Julius Ndongo, who I think he looked okay against, but I think Ndongo was shot to bits. It's an understatement. So it's hard to judge kind of his performance a little bit, I think. But yeah, we'll see. Looking forward to discussing betting odds for that fight. I'm interested to see at what price you can get Jenkins to win on that. Cool. I think I'm gonna hand it over to you now for the under the radar fight of the week now.
Yeah, so I was having a look at the schedule and all across the world, and there was one that did kind of jump out at me, and it's on Friday night on the Barcelona show from Spain that the DAZN are putting on, headlined by Sandor Martin against Jose Felix. And it comes in the light heavyweight division on the undercard, and it's a name that's probably quite familiar with a lot of British boxing fans. Ricard Bolotniks, we obviously saw him in last time out against Joshua Buatsi. We've seen him in against Stephen Ward before. He beat Jose Burton as well, and Sergei Michel, all in the golden contract. Won that golden contract, got the Buatsi fight, and got beat, was in the 11th round or 10th or 11th round stoppage by Buatsi. And if you look at his record, I think it's fair. I think you'll agree that he's one of them where you look at his record and it's 18-6 and 1. And I think that he's actually better than his record suggests. It's one of those ones where in the first 5 or 6 fights of his career, he had 2 losses or whatever it was over the 4 rounders. And the people who have beaten him are, probably quite top level guys. And he's fighting Hrvoje Sepp, who's a Croatian fighter who's 11-0. And he's 11 of the 11 wins, 8 have come by stoppage. And looking down his record, this is kind of the first real big test of his career. I think he's going in as the A side in this fight. He's the undefeated fighter. He's kind of got the knockout record, but he's 36 years old. He didn't have his pro debut until he was 31. So that's kind of what interests me in this fight. I think there's probably a wee bit of hype about this Sepp fella in Croatia, and with him being undefeated and stuff. But I think that this is a very even fight. I think that I would actually favour Bolotniks again, like you said there about the Marku Jenkins fight. I'd be interested to see the odds on the fight, because if Sepp's the A side, and it looks like he is, and there's a bit of hype about him, and this is, and Bolotniks is just coming as an opponent, supposedly, you'd like to think that Bolotniks could be quite an underdog and get some good odds on him. But no, it just kind of jumped out at me because I'm thinking, yeah, okay, his record doesn't look great at all, Bolotniks, but we know he's better than that. He put up a fight against Josh Buatsi, but that's Josh Buatsi on another level. He knocked out Stephen Ward in a round or 2. Jose Burton, he did end up beaten up quite badly. And again, in the final of the golden contract, he looked $1 million as well. So I think it's a fight that definitely jumped out at me, and I think could potentially steal the show on Friday night in Barcelona.
Definitely, and a fight that, although it's quite accessible to kind of British fight fans as well. Obviously, as we know, it's on DAZN. But I think a lot of people won't have heard of kind of Sepp, possibly outside of Croatia, possibly. But no, I think Bolotniks, he's in good fights. I thought he was well beaten by Buatsi, but to be fair, to win that golden contract wasn't easy, but beat some good fighters along the way. And yeah, I think a point I want to make is that he's fought in the UK 3 times, I think, Bolotniks. So fans know who he is in this country. So therefore, I think there's a good chance if he wins on Friday night, he could be back in the UK. I think one fight that's just kind of sprung to mind, if he can win on Friday night, wouldn't mind seeing him against Lyndon Arthur. I think Lyndon Arthur obviously needs a decent fight to come back after the Anthony Yard loss. So yeah, if you don't mind me playing matchmaker, I think that's a decent fight, possibly for later in the year, but we'll have to see what happens on Friday night first. But yeah, good. Well, fair play to you for finding an under the radar fight this week. I think it's not the most jam-packed weekend of boxing that we've seen so far this year. But yeah, thank you for doing that, mate. And yeah, looking forward to catching you up later in the week for the betting preview show. But thanks very much, Paul.
Yes, cheers, Eliot. All the best.